Hi, it's Will. This is the second video in a two-part video tutorial, mainly for my students in MMI 503 and 603 at the University of Miami who are taking plugins with me this semester. But it's also a good introduction to some new stuff in RackAFX7. So in the last video, we set up our background for the GUI along with a couple of knob groups here. I changed the colors of the fonts to match the colors of the knobs just because I'm in a colorful mode today, I guess. I don't know. The next thing we want to do is to add the quad phase button and a option menu that lets you choose linear or logarithmic for the amplitude modulation. We looked at all that stuff in the last video, so I'm not gonna flip back to it. For the button, I'm going to use an on-off button, and if you drag the on-off button off of the palette and then into the GUI itself, you get a toggle switch. That's the default button in RackAFX for you. That toggle switch has been added to the ping list that we looked at the last time. There it is, medium toggle switch. So I don't want that switch. I want the graphic that I had before. The graphic that I wanted to use was the green plastic button graphic. We imported that in the last video. Now this button is not the same size as that toggle switch, and so when I select it, you'll see that the graphic looks a little bit weird. That's going to all change once I close this down, and I'm going to connect this up right now to the stereo phase control ID. That will connect the GUI control, and now that I've exited, you can see that it's resized itself to match the size of this, this button. I'll need to identify the button, so to do that, I'm going to use some static text, which is the text label here, and I'll drag that text label up into the GUI design area, and I'll label this quad phase. I'm going to change the font to normal font smaller. That matches the other fonts that I've got here, and I'm going to change the color to be the green, the obnoxious green, because I want it to match the button itself, which also uses the green. Now you can see that the way that the snapping is set up here, because my grid is 5 pixels, which I've set over here, I can't get the quad phase to line up directly with the edit control right here. So if you hold the escape key down, you can then drag and move and it will turn snapping off. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hold the escape key here and try to get this just right. You can also see that when you hold the escape key down, you get a little menu that pops up. It gives you the top left coordinates and the size in pixels of the switch or the control. So there's the quad phase switch. I have a linear and logarithmic one as well. And just to be different, as you know, to something to show, I'm going to use the option menu for that. Now here's the option menu. I'm going to drag it out. It's going to give me a drop-down menu as before. I'll maybe widen it out a little bit, and I'll right-click and I'll choose the control link for amp mod. For the text color, I need to change the text color to be, let's say, the green as well. So the amp mod is going to be in green. We'll make this one blue because we're using these two colors. So there's the Tremolo amp mod, and there's its color, and I'll save it right here. It's also not lined up exactly perfectly, so if I hold the escape key down, then I can get it to sort of get a little bit closer here to the alignment. I'll do the same thing as before and drag a text label over here, and this is now going to say amp mod, and the color will be cyan to match the other one. I'll also change this to normal font smaller. So this now matches. Let me tidy this up a little bit and hold the escape key down again to get everything to line up. That looks pretty good, and that looks pretty good. The next thing we'll need to add are the 2 meters. Now for the meters, I'm going to add these individually. If you go to the objects panel here in LED meters, we can drag a meter up. This is not the meter graphic I want. I want the solid green one that I imported in the last video. So to do that, what I'll do is I'll grab view off and view on and view off. Those were the 2 meter graphics from before. You can see that they're a different size, and so the graphic is a little weird looking. And I'll connect that to the left gain meter and hit save. So there is 1 meter. I'll go ahead and add one more, do the same thing to it for the right channel and change its graphic, view on, view off, like that. So there are my 2 meters, and I'll do the same thing as before and add some text. This is going to be easy. It's just going to say LGR, left gain reduction. I'll do that in the obnoxious green, and there's nothing to control link it to, but you could to make static text that changes. I'll change the font to normal font smaller to match before, and then do the same thing, tweak this out a little bit. Hold the escape key down, get it to line up with the other one, and then same thing here. Just tweaking the graphic out a little bit. Okay, and one more text label for the other one, and we'll be just about finished here. RGR, right gain reduction, and obnoxious green. So I'll use the escape key one more time and add this one. Maybe I'll separate these out a little bit to keep the text apart. Now we only need two more things. We need the name of this plugin. I don't have that. I'm going to put that name right up in this empty spot, and I'm going to put my logo right over here. So let's do the name first. It's just going to be a simple text label. Notice that you could use an image if you had a fancy graphic for the label as well. And this is going to be Tremolo, like that. Let's use normal font big. How about normal font very big? There we go. And change the color here, make it the obnoxious green one more time. So there's the Tremolo name for the plugin here. Last thing I'll do is add the logo. In order to add a static graphic, it's really easy. You just use a view container and you let the view container hold your graphic. Now I'm going to set the view container up here. I'm going to change the size to 80 by 80 because that's the size of my logo. And then I'm going to choose the logo here. So there's my logo, and I can then drag that and kind of put that over here, maybe in the corner of the plugin like that. So there's the completed GUI for it in the GUI designer here. I'm going to come back to the prototype panel and rebuild it. Now I'll need to rebuild it to make the GUI stick. So while I'm doing that, I will take a look over here. This is Visual Studio. I'm going to launch the rebuild right from Visual Studio. Take a look at what's in the plugin GUI.uidesc file. This is the XML file that contains all of your GUI stuff. The ping file data is actually encoded inside of this file. So all of this gobbledygook that you see right here, this is all the ping file information for each of the components that I added right here. So this is where it all kind of gets absorbed into your graphic or into your GUI. We can see that the Tremolo has just about finished building. It's on its very last sort of leg here. It's made the DLL, so I'm going to load it into RackAFX. The custom GUI can be launched from right here, the blue button. So this is what it looks like. Now, of course, when you export any of these projects to Aspic using the Export Aspic button here, that GUI and everything along with it will travel into your project, your exported projects, including all the graphics information, because that's all encoded inside of the XML file. So that ends our second video on the GUI designer in RackAFX7, and I'll see you in the next video.